Young lives cut short in senseless shootings.
This should not be happening. We should not be going through this.
Alana Washington, Jada Page, Carnell Williams Thomas, and many others.
It hurts so bad that our kids are getting killed like this.
Families torn apart and left with no answers as cases remain unsolved.
Turn yourself in.
The calls to speak up.
Say her name!
Let's find out who did this.
The calls for justice.
Someone knows.
And the calls for change to protect our children. Voices. I'm Jawan Strader. We are streaming live in our Facebook and YouTube pages. Thank you so much for joining us. And please feel free to add your comments and questions to tonight's discussions. We want to hear from you tonight. Let us know your thoughts. If you have any questions for any of our panelists, please feel free to ask those questions. Our topic tonight is one that I wish we didn't have to have. I wish it's one that we didn't have to cover. We're talking with the parents of murdered children, their journeys to justice, and their continued calls to end these tragic deaths. Joining us for this discussion here tonight, Dorothy Williams' 2-year-old son, Carnell Williams Thomas, was killed back in December of 2017. No arrests have been made in the case. And joining us now, we were just able to get her on, thank goodness. Regina Talibert's 17-year-old daughter, Noricia, was shot and killed back in October of 2015. The suspect in the case was not convicted. Anti-violence advocate Tangela Sears is the founder of Miami-Dade Parents of Murdered Kids. She too lost one of her children to gun violence. And Starex Smith is a community activist you may also know as the Hungry Black Man. He continues working for justice for Alana Washington. The 7-year-old was killed last month following a drive-by shooting. She's one of too many South Florida children lost to gun violence. And I want to welcome all of our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. And we're going to have a very difficult discussion, but one I hope that folks out there will be able to grasp and relate to in some way, shape, or form. So, Dorothy, let's start with you. I want to start with you. First off, how are you doing these days? We haven't heard from you lately here. How are you doing? And Dorothy's having issues with their signal. So let me see if Dorothy, can you hear me? Okay. We're going to try to get back to Dorothy here. I know she's working on her signal right now. Can you hear me, Dorothy? You got me? Okay. What about you, Regina? Can you hear me?
I can hear you a little bit. I'm trying to.
Okay.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now. I can't. Okay, now I can see you. You're kind of breaking up there, but we're going to make this work. We're going to make this happen. All right, Regina. So you can hear me?
I can hear you a little bit. I don't know what's going on with my phone today.
Hey, it's okay. We're gonna make it do what it do. Let's make it work for sure. Well, Regina, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
And how have you been doing? And I want to hear more about Noricia, and I want to hear more about your daughter, and then I want to hear what actions you're trying to take and what changes you want to see made. But let's hear more about Noricia, that name that came from Haiti, the name that came from her grandmother. I want to hear a little bit more about her.
She just had another birthday yesterday. I meant to say on the 3rd of August. She would have been 22 years old.
Yesterday.
And
wow.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. And I'm really still grieving a little, but I take my pain and I'm trying to turn it into something positive. So what I did, I had a passion for young ladies. I started an etiquette program, and I also give out prom dresses during prom time. As you know, we didn't get a chance to do anything this year. due to the fact of COVID-19. But whatever I could get a chance to do for the community, I gets out, and I try to participate in whatever. Support parents, Florida parents of murdered children. I love Tangela Sears. She's like a sister of mine. She's always molding me about legislation and how to handle certain situations, you know. But I really miss her. She was my baby girl. And what I'm doing, I'm supporting other young ladies, and I'm trying to be a change maker in our community. And
Amen. And you're doing just
also,
that.
I didn't get justice, but what I would like to see a change in our community, where there's cameras in areas where the witness didn't want to come forth. She was scared. She had been threatened a couple of times. But if you have cameras in these areas that's target for certain areas, I know it can happen anywhere. It could be over in England, Spain. I mean, you could be in the best communities to make a difference. But if you got a camera, a picture say 1,000 words. They have these cameras at all of these red lights, taking tag numbers, charging people $158. But if you put cameras, a picture say 1,000 words. So I'm really fighting for that in areas that you think is target for that. I mean, cameras need to be everywhere. Then you won't need you'll still need a witness, but witness, you give them protection. Some of them don't want protection. She didn't want any. So that's what I would love to see, you know, being changed. And you got to make an example out of somebody. If you pull a gun, I mean, the parents, I don't know what they're doing with these young kids that's living in their home. First of all, Christ needs to be in there, and they need to watch their kids more, pay attention to what's going on in and out, but they just lost. I mean, it's just too much shooting, time after time after time. I mean, it's nonstop. I thought maybe due to what we're going through, the coronavirus, I thought things would die down, but it's not. My heart goes out to that parent just lost her child, any mother that loses a child.
Amen.
So I'm just fighting for whatever I could fight for to make a change in this community. Because Tangela's a fighter. She gonna make sure she pulls along and keep fighting. But I'm here to support. I don't care what time of day or night she called me or any mother. I'm here to support. And that's my passion and journey until the day I die, to get out here and do what I can do. I can't be on every scene. That's right. Because I got a lot going on right now. I really do. I was kind of down yesterday. I was down the day before, but I push my way every day. I surround myself with positive, and I just push my way through to make the best, because I know that's what she would want me to do. But I'm doing so many things for her to keep her memories alive. And I love giving out prom dresses. That's what I do. And I'm looking forward to trying to help with a scholarship for those that want one to go to college and make a difference in their life.
Tangela, what do you think when you hear from mothers like Regina and you hear her thoughts on action and pushing forward? What are your thoughts? And what messages are getting lost with all the gun violence that's going on? What's getting lost in all this dialogue we've been having for so many years now?
A lot of dialogues excludes us. A lot of people in the community create what they think should happen in these situations. It took me to sit in a room, even after I lost my son, Tuesday after Tuesday after Tuesday after Tuesday, to hear these stories, not only hear these stories, but listen to how they had been failed through the system. And so I began to do what Regina said, educate them on how to get change, and allowed us to be our own voices. We get the sympathy when we lose our kids, but she lost her daughter in 2015. There's still a lot of pain. You can hear it in her voice. So we don't always have that type of support. So I brought us together so we can be our voices. We can speak for what our needs are. We know what it is when a person is laying on the ground dead and what happens from that point on to what we need. We understand the issue and justice. She just explained in her case. I walked with her through her case, and the witness was very cooperative, very cooperative. However, she wasn't willing to go into the courtroom. She ran. She didn't care about getting witness protection to live somewhere. She didn't want any of that. She just was afraid to face her accuser. And unfortunately, that's a constitutional issue right there that in legislation that has to be changed on some of those things in order for anything to happen, because the jury and the defendant have a right to see their accuser. However, we went to Tallahassee fighting for the witness protection law to be able to something like the RICO Act back in the early 2000 when we had a lot of crime going on here. We went to Tallahassee fighting for that witness protection law to be able to protect witnesses until they get to that point. I don't know if it's being used because you don't know till 2 or 3 years later after a case have been, processed and someone is found guilty or not guilty, what's been used and what haven't been used. But I encourage all these mothers to get out here, these fathers to get out here and be their voices, because we know what we go through. We know what our needs are. A lot of people like to say what's needed in some of these cases, say what's needed for some of us parents, but they're not aware of our cases because we don't discuss it. We're not allowed to discuss it. And some cases are very, very, very complicated.
And Starex, I want to get you in on this conversation as well. What would you like to see happen?
Yeah, so the Center for Black Innovation, which is who our nonprofit has sort of merged into this, and we are on the policy side of things in the sense that we want to have the conversation on the individual who are actually committing these crimes, right? So unfortunately, overwhelmingly, these crimes are committed by Black men between the ages of 16 to 35. But in Miami-Dade County and locally in South Florida, it's more like the ages of 16 to 28. And so if there's no proper interventions to begin to redirect the energy of that population, then you're going to continue to see this. Black women specifically have the least amount of interactions with the criminal justice system. Even though there's been a small uptick, they still are arrested at a lower rate than even white women. So a lot of times, unfortunately, Black women bear the brunt of this trauma, the brunt of this emotional baggage, as we can see with the guests that are on here. And so I think there has to be a care coordination effort between Miami-Dade County and the cities that assign resources to grieving mothers, specifically in the social services area, because if not, you start seeing just this vicious hamster wheel of failure. And so if we don't start identifying and looking at this from an empirical policy standpoint and public health standpoint, I think that we'll find ourselves in the same position that we've been in for the past 50 years with this. So hopefully we can start having that conversation with the people that actually have the power to make those changes, and then be able to move forward in that fray.
Okay, I believe that we have Dorothy. Dorothy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, we got you, Dorothy. Dorothy, thank you again so much. Again, your 2-year-old son, Carnell Williams Thomas, he was killed back in December of 2017. No arrests have been made in the case at all. Why do you believe that no arrests have been made?
Because I know somebody out there knows something. It's just that they're not saying anything. It's only so much that the police can do. Like if they just keeping the information to themselves, like it's nothing the police can do. Someone around there know what happened to my son, and they not saying anything. They may think like what they know not relevant, but any little thing can be relevant to the case. Like I just asked someone to just speak up, whatever you know, just let the police know so they can do their job.
And do you believe that a lot of that is because, and Regina, I want to ask you as well, do you believe a lot of that is because of fear, because people are scared to speak up? They're that quote, snitches get stitches mentality. Is that why people won't speak up when it comes to, you know,
Yes,
stuff?
I
But it's a
believe
kid.
so. I definitely believe that's one of the reasons they don't want to relocate, because we did everything. My detective worked very hard trying to get her to come forth. She said she was going to testify, but she waited to the last minute and she changed her mind. You know, she didn't want to relocate, and that's part of it. Yes.
And
So those cameras would be very important. I mean, whatever, I don't know what to come up with. I don't know. Maybe you should just start putting cameras everywhere and make sure they work. Then that way, you know, like I say, a picture say 1,000 words, especially in the areas where they are so needed. Shooting
Dorothy?
time after time.
Dorothy, you want to say something? Dorothy, you wanted to get in on this one involving cameras. What do you think about that idea?
Because they had cameras over there where I lived at. It's just that it didn't catch the footage. Like, if you live over there, you know where the blind spots are. So the cameras, you know, really didn't help in my case.
And that's the problem that we face.
But I do think that fear is.
Okay, we do have a question from a viewer. A question. This is from Wendell Covell. It says, "What is causing so much violence in Miami and South Florida communities? Why is it that the Black and other Latinos are not saying anything to turn in these criminals?" Tangela, I'm going to start with you, and then I want to hear from you, Starex.
Sure.
One of the things are fear. Some just don't care, and some are a part of the problem out there. I can't go into cases, but some are a part of the problem. They don't want to say anything because they are part of another gang that have done things, and it's been retaliation. So you have different reasons why they don't come forth and say anything. But with one of the things you hear parents that have lost their kids say, because we maintain contact with our detectives, we know more of what's going on in our cases, but we can't talk about those things. And I say to them all the time, don't discuss your case, because I don't ever want them to hurt their case. But if you notice, you hear parents constantly saying the police has done everything that they can do, because sometimes we have people that come and give us information, but when it's time to talk to law enforcement to put that on record, they change their numbers. They won't answer the calls. They back away from communicating. So there's all sorts of reasons, but in the police, that's one of the reasons. You know, even during this election cycle, I wanted to know who's going to put more dollars in investigational units, because the county only have a small piece of a lot of this. We have to start engaging our legislators in conversations that's responsible for some of these laws, voted for some of these laws. Some of our legislators that's not working towards changing the law. We have to know that the state attorney and the judicial system is governed by the Tallahassee legislators.
And Starex, let's get to the root of the problem, though. What is causing so much violence in Miami and South Florida communities? As to that question, what's the cause of that? I mean, we always hear, oh, it's gangs. Oh, you know, it's the gangs. We want to blame them. What is the root of that? How can we solve that?
Sure. I mean, there are other countries that's done an incredible job at reducing crime, such as Scotland. And we looked at the interventions that Scotland put in place, and those interventions were not of a suppression nature or this hyper surveillance nature. Getting to the source of the problem again is who is committing the crimes. And as I said before, it's a demographic that's been identified. Black males between the ages of 16 to 35 in comprehensive view but more specifically, you see more younger population here in South Florida. And so what creates that, right? 50% of Black men and 40% of white men are arrested by the age of 23 of the population. And so when you start seeing these are public health issues. And so how do we now look at this from a public health perspective rather than a criminal justice perspective? Because we've been looking at it from the lens of criminal justice for the past 50 years, and it's gotten worse. So if you keep doing the same thing the same way, you're going to keep getting the same results. And so when we look at the types of crime, it's rooted in senselessness, right? Some folks might say it's crimes of sort of economic issues, and that can be as well. But it doesn't mean that the senselessness of it is caused by economics. So if you know that that's the population, we should be asking ourselves, what funding is directed toward preventing this and intervening into these issues, right? So if we look at the Children's Trust, if we look at Miami-Dade County, if we look at the state attorney's office, and we look at how the dollars are routed, very few dollars are specifically targeted to the individuals that are actually creating the crime. And so you find this situation where you're spending money in areas that has nothing to do with the problem. And so if we keep doing that, then you're going to keep getting the crime. So if we had diversion programs and intervention programs that we say Black men are less likely to be hired from several studies from the Kauffman Foundation on down, then you start putting money where you know we can sustain jobs. We can train this population so that they're not on the street, so that they're not breaking the law, so that they aren't doing things that creates an environment that kills 7-year-olds. So I really think that we should really start having a conversation about how we route funding and force Miami-Dade County, who has been incredibly apathetic. They have funded the Peacemakers program that's proven to be extremely successful, only $2 million countywide. And so when you see that our leaders are putting very few dollars behind solving the problem, it really begs the question, what are they doing? Because I really don't know how else to put it when you're not attacking the problem head on.
And I want to go back to the mothers. Regina, can you hear me? I know you're moving around. Okay. Okay.
I don't know what to hit. I don't want to hit the wrong thing.
Oh, I can hear you, but I can hear you really good. So I think we can all hear you. But Regina, I wanted to ask you, there was a suspect. There was a suspect in your daughter's shooting, correct? That was initially locked up. And I don't know if you can still talk about the case or not.
Yes.
But he's no longer locked up.
Not for her, not for my case, he's not. But I did hear that he was locked up, but not for Naricia.
But you, you didn't get, but as far as getting justice for Naricia, you still haven't really gotten that justice for Naricia.
No.
And that 15-year-old was allegedly shooting at someone else at the time. Can you hear me? Okay, I see. Well, I just see it. It just went mute there. It just went mute, Regina. There we go. Now it's going mute again. All right.
I can't hear it.
Okay, now I got you. Can you hear me?
I'll just put my hand right here. I can hear a little bit.
Okay. Well, we can hear you well. We can hear you well. So Dorothy, let's come back over to you. I want to come back over to you in regards to your particular case. And the fact that there's still, is there anything on the streets? Have you heard of anything of what possibly could have led to that shooting or anybody involved? And I don't even know if you can really talk about your case. Dorothy is frozen. So, okay, we're having some technical issues with Dorothy as well. Okay, so Tangela, I'm going to come back to you then. So Tangela, I want to ask you is in regards to Regina's idea about cameras, more cameras that can maybe help with prosecuting someone out there because people are afraid to come forward. What do you think about that idea?
I think it's a great idea. In fact, we have them in the city of Miami now. And maybe one day you need to call Chief Kalina and take a walk through there where you can go into their time room and really learn how they're able to see everything that's going on in the streets now. And of course, we have them in Miami Gardens as well. So my hope is that we will now get them in Miami-Dade County because that will help a lot to get the cameras. I know they went forth and putting cameras on a lot of the churches, but the killings don't happen in the view of those cameras. Those cameras have to go in the areas where we have the highest crime, so they can be able to do these things. And as a grieving parent, you know, one of our things is we hear about programs and all type of things. I think all the money should go over to education, and that will money is put into the public education system will not only help educate our kids, but you can also provide services for our parents as well. So I think that's important. Those that's killing our kids, if this community do not stand with us in demanding justice for these families that lose their kids, you will not stop the killing, because there will forever be retaliation out there in the streets. It's real.
Amen. It is real. And Starex, speaking of real, we're talking about Alana Washington. I want to get back to Alana Washington, one of the most recent victims who you're trying to push the word out there to try to get justice for, a reward of $55,000, I believe, right now, for any information leading to who may have shot and killed her. But she was outside just playing, you know, and just like Carnell, outside playing, can't even play when she was shot and killed. So I wanted to ask you in regards to what efforts are you doing to try to get the word out there in the community to try to bring justice for her?
So that's actually really interesting. We had a walk, and our angle was not necessarily a walk for justice, but a walk for establishing her memory and not letting her be another innocent child that's been forgotten, because law enforcement has to do their job, right? And so if law enforcement does their job, you know, no matter how loudly we scream, they have to do their job, or we have to find other mechanisms to bring those culprits to justice. However, our piece was when she played outside, we walked the neighborhood and we wanted to know, when Alana was here, what were her options to play? She lived in a community that is completely forgotten. And so there's no safe spaces for them because there's no coordinated effort. And so we are now looking at, again, policy and looking at where playgrounds centrally located in that area and what's the accessibility and the walkability for those kids. When we did the walk, Jawan, we saw a total of 5 dead crows. We saw power lines on the ground. We saw broken bottles. We saw needles. We saw drug paraphernalia everywhere. We saw a huge lack of code enforcement. And so when you have these systemic issues that are impacting the environmental sort of space for these children, it creates crime, and we know this. And so the things that we can control, we're not controlling. So the things we can't control, we get very upset about it and we talk about it. But why don't we do the things in Alana's memory that we can control, so that it is in her memory? When you had Adam Walsh that lost his life, they couldn't control necessarily his death, but they obviously found the murderer, and then laws changed as a result of that child's death. When you look at Parkland, laws were changed. The governor responded to them. Officers were removed.
Okay, we're apparently all of a sudden having an issue with Starex's signal. All of a sudden, you guys, you got to forgive us. Technology is an interesting thing. Okay, Starex, you just popped back up. So yes, we got you. So, but this is what we're dealing with right now with the COVID crisis, is technology. So please forgive us. Starex, you want to finish your thought because you broke off right there.
Yeah. So no worries. So what we saw so many horrible examples of what Alana environment was when she was with us. And so when we saw that, there's thousands of Alanas now. And so the same way that Adam Walsh lost his life, and as a result, there was nothing that can be done to bring him back, but they ensured through the federal government on the federal level that there were laws that were changed to protect that population, which is a vulnerable population. And so for all the thousands of Alanas that are still here, what are we doing in her memory to ensure that we minimize the potentiality of this happening again? And more importantly, how do we make these children's lives more abundant, where they don't have to be subjected to a completely forgotten community from every single level of level of government, and specifically spaces where they can play and be safe, spaces where they can learn and grow, and more importantly, spaces that reinforces the narrative to be imaginative, to be successful. And so the programs that we fund currently and the measures that we're putting in place for prevention and intervention measures They simply are not working. And so naming policies in her name is exactly what we're working on, because we want her memory to live on forever and give life to the Alana Washingtons that are all around this South Florida, really, but specifically Miami-Dade County.
Amen. Starex, you know what? You mentioned something interesting there. You talked about forgotten communities. You also talked about safe spaces. And I know, Regina, you had mentioned something that I heard a little bit earlier, not in this particular conversation, but in another conversation. You talked about the Parkland shooting tragedy and how all the attention that they got with the Parkland shooting tragedy, but yet there are forgotten communities like where your daughter was shot and killed, that people are not talking about, and you wanted to make sure you bring attention to that as well.
Yes, that area where my daughter got killed, that area during that time was the target for a lot of shooting. And it's not the people that live here; they come from other places, Paran, Naranja, Richmond Heights. It's retaliation. That's what's going on here. And that area, it have cooled down a little bit since my daughter got killed. It's another side of Florida City now, where they're moving all these people, I'm sorry to say it, from down south, from down north, here in Miami, from Miami to Homestead area. And it's just, they don't care. Because I spoke to one parent that it was a shooting. She's from Miami. She has 11 children. Her daughter is in my program. And she told me she didn't really want to move down here. She was pushed down here. She was pushed down here to the hack where they put, place people for housing. And she ended up moving in the townhouses down where a lot of shooting be. And when her son killed this young man in Florida City, yes, Nabil, last year, a year before last, he was wearing a bracelet on his leg at the time when they came and got him, and they went over to Homestead and shot this young man in the park. He was from Miami. He wasn't but 14 years old. Because that same mother told me, I met her doing voting. I was out there picking up paper in my yard, and she was walking, and I asked her about, had she voted yet? And she told me no, she hadn't voted. And I told her I was getting ready to vote, and she was headed to the store to get some cereal. So as I got in the car speaking with her, she was telling me about her son was the one that shot this young man. And when she went to visit him, she said, I saw the guy that killed your daughter. He was still locked up at the time. So, they're just playing, and she was asking them what they was in here for. Being locked up is like home for some of them. You're just locking them away. What are you doing? What purpose is it serving? Are you doing something? They need to go to school. I think they need to be pushed to come out with a diploma or some kind of degree or something to start a decent life. Because if not, they come and go right back where they started from. They take it for a joke. They are taking it for a joke. You could kill somebody and go home and go to sleep. If I hurt somebody's feelings, it bothers me. They don't have a conscience. I was told Christopher Walker never had a conscience while he was in jail for killing my daughter.
Wow.
They don't care. They into the gangs. But where is the parents? What's going on? You can't blame all the parents, but where are they keeping the guns? And where are they keeping money for selling drugs? They're not old enough to buy a place. So what's going on? Something gotta give with all of this drive-by shooting. They don't care about kids anymore. It takes a village to help raise kids. When I was coming up, everybody looked out for kids. But I'm scared to let my grandchildren, if they over here, go out in the yard. Which I don't have that problem right now where I live, but it's down the street and on the other side. just don't know. I'm just so tired. I try to watch the news to stay up on things, but it's depressing sometimes. Sometimes I be depressed up in this house.
Amen. And
can't go out for coronavirus.
yeah,
Then you're scared to go out. Don't know if you gonna get shot. You know, you don't know what to do. That's why I have to just stay and pray. You just don't know what to do. I thank God I got my mind, because
Amen.
you could lose your mind behind this. It's hurtful. It's painful. I try to go in and clean up my daughter's room. I've been off all this time. I haven't done nothing. I haven't done anything. And it gets depressing when you turn on the TV. You go in there, you turn on the TV, you hear about shooting after shooting. It's very painful. That's why I'm willing to help do anything. But you remember the moms was out there protesting and they shot them. I mean, these little guys ain't scared of nobody.
Wow.
So I don't know what it's gonna take. I really don't know what it's gonna take. And then when the police start, what about the black on black area? When the police brutality, yes, it's some nasty police out there. But at the same time, what about the killing that's going on in our community? All police ain't bad, but yes, some was born with nastiness and evil in them. And that's just the way it is. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm at a standstill sometimes. I want to keep pushing, but sometimes it's just sometimes I feel like just giving up.
No, don't do that. Don't do that, sister.
Hard.
You keep pushing the way you are, and we're going to have that conversation to make sure that we continue to do so and come up with ideas, because you got your girl Tangela on your side. You got Dorothy right there on your
Tangela,
side.
I tell you.
And now you
hangs up on you. She gets mad.
Hey, I've been on the receiving end of some of that too with Tangela, but I know where her spirit is at the end of the day. So it's all good.
Post-traumatic stress.
Yes, it's perfectly fine. Perfect. Listen, we're running out of time, but real fast, I want to hear, Dorothy, I want to hear from you, because you were breaking up a few times. I just want to hear from you. You heard the pain there from Regina. What are your thoughts as far as what needs to be done here? Of course, this is a conversation we've had for years, but I wanted to hear from you. And I know the pain never goes away. I've talked to a lot of mothers out there, and they've said that when people ask them, like, how are you feeling today? Well, today, I may be feeling a little bit better than yesterday, but I still feel that pain because a part of your heart is gone. So I want to hear from you and your thoughts on what needs to be done here. Oh, okay. There you are. I got you. You're low though. Do we have your audio up? Okay, go ahead. And I can't hear you, Dorothy. And I can't hear you, and I apologize. I can't hear you, Dorothy. Go ahead. I can't hear you. I'm so sorry, Dorothy. I'm gonna have to blame Jamel, our digital guy. I can see that smile. That's all I need to do is see that smile right there. But Tangela, I'm gonna come over to you, and hopefully we can hear from Dorothy. But Tangela, I'm gonna come over to you right now. You heard the passion from Regina, and I've heard it from you. Yeah, I've heard you talk about how you've had good and bad days, how you never know what you're going to get. I'm like, sometimes I'm careful when I text you. I'm like, which Tangela am I going to get today? But that's because it's the pain that you're carrying so much weight from so many mothers yourself. So your thoughts, and we have this conversation, I don't know how many times a year, but I want to continue to have the conversation. But I wanted to hear your final thoughts.
It's painful. Sometimes I listen to Regina to 5 and 6 o'clock in the mornings. We're both in a lot of pain. And again, that's why I say we have one another. I heard Parkland mentioned earlier. I admire Parkland. One of the things I said to my parents once that happened with Parkland, I say, do you realize when they lost their kids, they ran where I'm always trying to take you out. They ran to Tallahassee. They put pressure on legislators. When will we unite? Everybody got things different going on, and the parents not involved in a lot of things. You got to understand the process here. I hear people say we don't get services. Parkland got service, but the parents don't get services. We may not tell you, but we get the same services. Now, when it comes to counseling, a lot of us don't take it, but we need to have it extended in Tallahassee. Who will go with us and fight for that?
Mhm.
We need stricter laws. Who will go with us and fight for that? It is painful. I have to hear from parents calling me doing protests, asking me, do my child matter? So it put me in some very difficult positions because, and that's one of the reasons I continue to fight for them, because their kids matter. One of the things I said to a parent as recent as last night, when a police kills a mother's child, a white person kills a mother child, or a black person kill our child, when we lay down, we have the same pain. When we
That's right.
wake up with the same emptiness. It's society that have divided us. Put the police in jail. Let's get programs for them. No, we want them in jail because these parents are in pain. And it's sad. I don't have any more kids. So I'll never get that call again. I'm out here to make sure other parents don't get that call. And it can happen to anybody. I didn't think it would happen to me. Regina got that honor student over there.
Yeah.
Dorothy got that 2-year-old baby just, playing. We don't, and so many others. I mean, hundreds of parents I have touched in this county that have lost kids, babies, adult kids, or their parents. But we get the sympathy when we lose our kids, and we're left alone after we bury our kids.
That's right.
That's why I brought this group together. When we go to Tallahassee, no one help us get there. We're not a 501c3. You'll be surprised of the people that I have to go to make sure that these parents have a room. But it's not us. Make sure that these parents have transportation. It's not us. So everybody fight for us during our horror time, during the burial. But afterwards, everyone is gone. And mothers are left to fend for themselves. Nobody goes downtown demanding that the detective or the police communicate with us. Nobody goes to the state and demand that someone goes to jail. So what you see out here is sometimes retaliation. And it's going to continue if we don't unite. See, the thing with Parkland, they wanted the killer in jail. We need our community to want our killers in jail as well. That would be a major part of helping us because a lot of them are the same guys. Some of them shouldn't even been out of jail. They the same guys. But again, we hear groups and it puts us in a lot of pain. We go through a lot at night. We call each other. But it puts us in a lot of pain to hear people just, fighting just to get one said community, one said group or organization in jail. When 15, he 15, let's try to get help from him. What about that mother that lost that 16, that 14, that 2-year-old, that 6-year-old, that 7-year-old? What about those mothers? They will never in life, I don't care how old he is, because at 16, you know what you're doing. I don't care about them going to no program. But let's go back and save those that we can save. Let's work on a program to get these parents involved. Let's work on legislation to mandate when you're 13 and you becoming a mother, you need to go through some type of program. And parents got to stop being their kids' friends. They so close in age now. The kids go in and direct the mom and what to do, opposed to mom demanding what the kids should do. All of those things have to change. We have to have some real dialogue because we've lost a whole generation.
Tangela, thank you. And Starex, I want to leave you with the final word, but I'm running out of time. So you got about 2 minutes here, but I want to leave you with the final word on your thoughts on what must be done, what change must be done in order to put an end to this violence.
Sure. So as I stated before, it has to be a cross coordination. When you hear these moms talking on here, there's no cross coordination. There's no centralization of resources so that we solve the problem. So when we hear that mothers are having psychological impacts, that they are experiencing anxiety, that they're experiencing depression, these are things that our county and our state government definitely can provide funding. When I look and I see in these same communities that our kids are dying, you see festivals that cost over $500,000. You see festivals that have nothing to do with curbing the seriousness behind what's happening in our communities. So resources are being diluted. And so now if we now coordinate our efforts and work across city lines, where Miami Guards is talking to the commissioner in Miami, the commissioner in Miami is talking to the commissioner in North Miami. And so we do have a mechanism to do that at the Dade League of Cities, and bringing these moms in front of the Dade League of Cities and having them tell their stories and creating a dialogue in front of the stakeholders and the gatekeepers that can make these things happen, whether it's advocating for different gun laws, whether it's advocating for the things that these mothers feel will change things. I just think that we can do a much better job at that. And the last point is a much better job at identifying the problems and strategically and empirically dealing with the problems, as opposed to just kind of experiencing anger and having this happen time and time again. Be strategic and outcome based as opposed to output based. So that's our work, and we definitely hope that we will see a change in the family dynamics as well. So that's
Starex, thank you so much. And Regina, thank you. Dorothy, I apologize. I'm so sorry. We were having some technical issues with you. Just keep on smiling for me. And we're going to get you back on, Dorothy, so we can have that conversation. And Tangela, as always, sister, I appreciate you and what you're doing in our community. And you can yell at me anytime. You know, I'm always here for that, you know. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you have anything you would like to comment or say, please feel free to do so. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter and tweet me about our conversation at Jawan NBC6 or on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for this all-important conversation on NBC6 Voices. And I'll see you tonight at 11 o'clock on television. Have a good evening.
Thank you.